Fallout, the TV series. Prior to this, all of us on this panel were very critical. Very critical. We devoted videos, we devoted streams to it. We were very critical of Jonathan Nolan and his commentary because it was what we had in the moment. And my response to that is Jonathan Nolan should have just shut up and not said a damn thing.
Yep.
Just let the show come out. And listen, I didn't need to make those videos. They were just story of the moment of something I was going to cover. So I was trying to be ready for it.
Yeah.
And I said, go ahead.
The Jonathan Nolan stuff applies to so much more than just Fallout. That's why in my video, I didn't really talk about Fallout besides saying this is probably a red flag as a throwaway comment. But I didn't focus too much on Fallout as much as the rest of you guys because I just didn't care. I've been gaining apathy for a lot of this stuff.
Well, you weren't planning on reviewing it, so...
Yeah, I'm not planning on reviewing it. I made one Fallout video, and it was about Jonathan Nolan's comments because those comments can apply to nearly every other TV show and movie that we've seen the last few years. It's just this perspective from Hollywood that you should not prioritize the fans at all, that it's a fool's errand to even attempt to make something for fans. And that's just a flawed perspective. And the quality of the show doesn't change that because, as I mentioned in that, he's made good stuff before. Westworld season 1 is phenomenal. There's only one season of Westworld, though, just so we're clear. But the quality of the show makes no impact on my video, at least in my Adams as well, is saying that this is a dumb thing to say, regardless of the show.
And there seems to be some sort of weird stigma that we're not allowed to change our minds on something, that we have to own our mistake and we can only have that mistake. We can't change our opinion. Because I said it earlier in the stream. I've said it on several videos. And I say it when later tonight, when I release my final review of the remaining Fallout episodes. I was wrong. What I feared was agenda turned out to be nothing. Yes, there is still a they, them in this show, and I think it's stupid. But
and they, them who's gone through, chemical treatments, which I doubt are very prevalent in a post-apocalyptic society where food's hard to come by.
Yeah.
So there's that. And in the end, and I apologize for those of you who are going to watch the video later, there's going to be a little crossover, what I say here and what I say there. In the end, it's just a regular show. It's just a regular average show that tells its story rather decently, has good characters and bad characters, has problems, does things well. And in my final review, I treat it as such. I'm not making fun of it. I'm simply commenting on what I see and how I feel about these things. And that's the bottom line of it. I mean, Ryan, you were as critical as this before we went into this as I was.
Oh, massively. And the reason I was so critical is I'm going to start out right on with the, hit it on the nose because they chose Ella Purnell to lead the show. And the reason I'm going to lean that direction is because, so quite frankly, it's very current day to have women in everything, have women lead everything. Now, so that was red flag number one for me, because obviously it is a thing. We see it's a thing. It's not a thing in this.
Yeah.
It's actually,
and warning, guys, there's going to be spoilers. Warning, we are going to do spoilers in order to have this discussion. Continue.
So obviously so Fallout, the original Fallout game, the Vault Dweller is male. Fallout 2, the Chosen One is male. Fallout 3, it just goes down, now. So the thing is the later games becomes a little more loose, right? Which is fine. There's nothing
customize,
there's nothing wrong with having
it's just customization.
Yeah, it's just customization. And it's the story that's usually canonical. It's not usually so like this side wins, this one prevails. So obviously Fallout New Vegas, the NCR winning the Battle of Hoover Dam and defeating Caesar's Legion is canonical. It is the canonical ending. You can play another side if you want to, that's fine, but it is ultimately the Courier helps the NCR win the battle of the second Battle of Hoover Dam, excuse me. So anyway, that was red flag number one. Just because current day is always about, well, let's put a chicken in and make her gay. Lame. Well, So Lucy is a little lame in a sense. She's very naive. She has been living in a vault for 219 years. They don't know any better. They are stuck. So Fallout is set in it's set. This is actually the show is set in 2291, I
which
think.
is the farthest forward we've ever been. Correct?
Yeah, or 2296. Excuse me. I think it's 2296. So the most far forward we have been was Fallout New Vegas, which was 2281. There's a glaring timeline mistake, and I'll get to that. So anyway, they come out of Vault 33, and because she's going to find her father. Now we've seen this in Fallout 3. You got to find my dad. Fallout 4 is like I need to find my son. But even though Fallout 4 is canonically it's where the father and goes to find the son, the wife is the one that is killed in the cryopod.
Yeah, I played as a dude.
Yeah. So
I played as the chick.
Yeah. So it's pretty much it's a standard Fallout story. It's something happens, you have to go fix it.
And part of your red flag about worrying about Lucy being put out was dispelled in the first episode where she was shown to be competent and years of practice and training, which was, and I said in my review, which I got roasted for. People who didn't actually really probably watch my review, I was mostly positive in that first review, but I've been attacked because
which is nonsensical.
I mean, here's the thing. I was trying to watch one episode at a time and give an individual episode a reaction without being influenced by the later episodes and to watch how it progresses and my opinion. And some people just can't, because it was batch dropped, and we're going to get to the batch drops conversation. Look at that. Because it was batch dropped, some people cannot comprehend that I'm trying to watch it in isolation and talk about each episode in isolation. There seems to be a failure to understanding that that's how I wanted to review it. And if you just sit back knowing where it goes and seeing I'm probably going to change my mind, why not just sit back and see if I change my mind? Or actually watch my review. Don't say that I'm a miserable fuck and I just want everything to be terrible. Actually watch review and say that with the exception of Maximus, who even after 8 episodes, I think Maximus sucks.
Yeah, I don't like Maximus.
I don't like him at all. I had some issues with this character. I kind of felt like there was a little bit of the John Boyega thing a bit. Also at the same time, I think in my opinion, the good outweighs the bad, but I definitely understand where you're coming from.
We'll come back to that in a second. Let me just say,
yeah.
But in that first episode, I'm super positive about Lucy and her behavior. I was really happy that her and her dad had a good dad relationship. I really liked that we had a good dad thing, which in a moment we're going to talk about, which was taken away from me. Not as Ryan put in our discussion yesterday, in replace to make the bad dad, but it was taken away from me for story purposes, and I think they could have done it better. Where some of my criticisms come into the writing and the narrative of the show. But we had a good dad, and then we had a possible bad Whammons, which turns out to be a good Whammons, and it like Moldiver. All right, Ryan, let me ask you this: did they mention her name at all in that first episode? Moldiver or whatever her name is.
The Raider chick.
Yeah,
they did.
They did. Okay, I just missed it.
Yeah,
I just missed it. Okay.
The vault fell. Okay, so let me.
Okay, yeah. Let me. I just missed it then. I was quick because when I watched episode 2, I'm like, wait a minute, when did we get her name? I don't remember hearing her name.
Let me add some context. Now, the vault's set up by Vault Tech. The vast majority, it was only about, I believe, somewhere in the neighborhood of like 33% of them were meant to carry humanity into the future. The other 66% were set up as evil experiments to watch humanity destroy itself.
Yeah.
And so that's why,
as the show puts it, they're there to be their own little personal society science projects now.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's unbeknownst to the majority of the vault dwellers. Many of the vaults met probably the most horrific, tragic takes, as was shown with Vault 32. And so this is very, 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 very spot on with the lore. The vaults are horrible, horrible, horrible places. They are designed to fail. The majority of them, they are designed to be a social experiment. So the actual vaults that survive going forward, there is still a centralized government. It is called the Enclave, and Vault Tech was part of what the U.S. government going forward would be, as well as West Tech, which is another evil organization.
You see them all in episode 8. They are all listed.
You see all of them. The only one that stands out that it is not being an overtly evil man is Mr. House from Robco. He is the one who actually saves New Vegas in the game. He saves Las Vegas and turns it into New Vegas. Now he's still not a very moral man, but
that isn't that the thing about Fallout? There's no real good people in Fallout.
No. Usually,
this is the one franchise where morally gray is the right way to go, because it's just that's the world at this point.
Yeah, you can't be morally pure in a world like this. You wouldn't survive.
And Lucy portrays that actually perfectly, right?
And that's why she works.
It is why she works, because she steps out of this into this new world, and everybody from the word Jump Street looks at her and goes, "You're gonna die. You're not gonna survive up here. Your ass is dead." Like going, you don't have what it takes. Like, and we see constantly her being belittled, and the fact that she is so naive of this morality complex that was taught. And so, but the thing is, she is competent, because yes, the vaults do to give the residents things to do. They do organize activities like weapons training, self-defense, stuff like that. Obviously, so there were some good things that Vault Tech did, but it was so minuscule because the majority of vaults, obviously 31, 32, and 33, they're a trifecta.
Yeah.
And
was that a thing in the games? Because that seems dumb.
It was not a thing in the games. No,
the show is trying to broaden the lore. It looks like to show that Vault Tech was more of a mastermind for everything. And
well, okay, so the thing is that there are overseers that are basically their Vault Tech plans meant to manipulate the system in their favor. So that is not something that's new. I actually I was very odd about the fact that they had 3 vaults all attached to where they could just open the doors after a certain amount of time, because the vaults were meant to.
But then there's the reveal in episode 8.
There's the reveal, yeah. And so that is not a surprise. The reveal, the reveal is actually very, very spot on for Fallout.
And last night, this was off to the side. This was not recorded. We were talking about this stuff, and I was saying, since I was on episode 8 when we finished driving last night, I was a little put off. There's 4 arcs in this, 4 plots. There's Lucy, there's Maximus, there's the Ghoul, and then there's all things Vault Tech, which involves Vault 33 and part of the Ghoul's backstory. Cooper Howard. His Howard, as his last name.
He by far the most incredible character.
Oh, well, yeah, that, and I'm gonna get to that. So you have all that stuff. So there's 4 arcs. Now, my biggest problem during the show was that, and Jed, if you ever finish it, you might agree with me on this.
I don't think I'm going to finish it. I'm just too bored with it to care beyond the 2 episodes.
That's the thing. But here's the thing. To me, one of my criticisms of the show. Well, let me say it. The show is okay. It's not the greatest thing in the world. It's a nice little watch. I recommend, if you just want to have a nice little watch and just veg out, watch it. You'll probably walk away, okay, I had a little entertainment and I'm fine. But I didn't like sort of the narrative pacing. I feel as though the Vault Tech storyline with 31, 32, 33 with Lucy's brother Norman discovering things, I feel like that either should have been an entire episode all its own, not spliced up the way it was, with only the big reveals coming together in the end. Same with Coop's backstory. I would have liked a single episode of just his backstory instead of it being peppered over 3 episodes, because it broke the pacing of everything else that was going on. Even though they were trying to line it up narrative-wise of, we're learning this about this. We learned that Lucy's father, Hank, is one of the Vault Tech people that were cryo-frozen and brought forward and this and that. At the same time that there's Betty and all this stuff. I felt it could have been streamlined better. And when I was watching for that, I thought, well, maybe this could have been put in another season. Now I see they had to put it in this season because it was part of the reveal, so it had to happen. But it's just there's a narrative flow that I think could have been done a little better. And I just mentioned it. We get the big reveal that Lucy's father, Hank McLean, as we learn his name right at the end, is part of the Vault 31 control where it's a bunch of Vault-Tec people who have been cryo-frozen to run the social experiment of 32 and 33. And when he was in charge and he married Lucy's mom and had Lucy and Norman, Lucy's mom, Rose, took the kids and ran away when she figured out the truth to Sunny Shades.
Shady Sands.
Shady Sands. I kept saying Shady Pines today in my review. I'm gonna have to go edit that out.
Yeah, Shady Sands.
Pines. So. I kept saying Shady Pines. But you know what I'm saying. So and then he came and took her back, and then he was responsible for the destruction of Shady Sands. And that's why I said I understand making him a villain, but I don't like the fact that they gave us a good dad who was being a good dad early on, and then they took that away from us. I don't like that. I don't like that.
The reason I want to push back on this is because, again, it's very, very much Fallout to, again, as we were talking about, there are no morally good characters. So Hank was never actually a morally good character. He was a part of Vault-Tec, which was an incredibly evil company. This has been circulating for years now. The thought that Vault-Tec actually had something in the destruction of the Earth and having China and the United States fire their nuclear weapons. It was always a question, and this has been something that more hardcore Fallout fans have been asking for years. Who fired first? Did the United States nuke itself so they could actually nuke China, and then China nuked back? And it's like it's been this ongoing thing of like, I actually kind of think that Bethesda actually finally listened to all the chatter about that, and they're like, well, we're going to finally give you an answer, because this has been going on since
the show says Vault-Tec triggered everything.
Yes, Vault-Tec triggered everything because they were set to capitalize the most. Because, again, somewhat similar to our modern WEF, they think they know a better way, and they're willing to destroy everything to get there. It's so, and not to kind of pull real world politics into it, but it is kind of somewhat based in that. So the thing is that obviously even a bad person can be a good dad, right? Because they say that when you have kids, it changes you.
Let me counter real quick. Then I mean, I understand what you're saying, and and we agree, no one is going to be pure gold, pure in this thing. But I would have liked a little more actual nuance that he didn't want to do it, and that he didn't want to kill his wife. And when he says as soon as she left, she wasn't your mother anymore, I would have liked more. I would have liked the struggle for him, because it would have made him a better character. Kyle MacLachlan, fantastic performance. He's Kyle MacLachlan. He knows how to do this shit. He can go from I'm good and all gush sweet to I'm fucking crazy in it. Snap a finger. It's great.
Kyle MacLachlan, he's the best part of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. early seasons.
Yeah.
I would actually I'm not going to argue that too much. I will nudge it a little back in the direction, because okay, so there's a big moment in the show. It's usually what Fallout is usually based off of. It's called the Big Hope moment. There is that one where Lucy, she's like, Dad, and he inputs the code. And I'm going to get to that because there are people who I was a little upset to find out that Shady Sands was nuked. I was. As somebody who is my favorite faction in Fallout is the New California Republic. It is the one carrying the legacy of the United States the most into the future. Arguably, the second would be probably the Minutemen from Fallout 4. They believe very much in the lasting of the United States, the foundation of it. The reason the New California Republic made more sense to be the ones is because it was suffering from some of the same bureaucratic issues that before the war, or even in our modern government today. So even though the New California Republic, they say in the show, didn't work, right? There are lasting factions of the New California Republic. That's how it ultimately got made. Like, it became the NCR. Then as they expanded, they absorbed more people and brought more people in to be citizens and stuff like that. And they provided protection. Again, kind of the same thing with what happened with Caesar's Legion. Caesar's Legion was pushing back. It was the biggest faction resisting in Fallout New Vegas. So that big moment, the reason I say that the fans who are probably saying, well, it destroyed everything from Fallout 1, Fallout 2, and Fallout New Vegas, and they're trying to retcon things. My big issue is the date, 2077. They say the fall of Shady Sands. That was 4 years before Fallout New Vegas, the second battle of Hoover Dam. It's a massive flaw. It's a massive fudge. Well, third, I mean, you're entitled to your opinion, but again, also at the same time, he's not a debate. Yeah, he's not 100% wrong, because the Brotherhood of Steel in the Mojave Wasteland was actually
dicks.
They are dicks, but they were also almost completely wiped out due to the NCR, and the NCR is not, again, infallible, as in most governments are not. Anyway, so the date 2077 doesn't work because it predates Fallout New Vegas by 4 years. If Shady Sands, the capital of the new California Republic, was already nuked, then it throws a massive wrench in the lore going from there.
I mean, we know Todd Howard hates the fact that people like New Vegas, so that he's been trying to get away from it for years. So there's several things I've heard of that he, in the Fallout TV show, he was trying to go away from the canonical status of New Vegas as a whole.
The only issue I have with that, and I have heard people argue that, is that New Vegas literally appears in the final shot. Hank McLean walks and sees the skyline of New Vegas, where and there's so many references to we get the two scavengers. They're wearing NCR power armor. Ranger armor.
Not decanonizing the existence of the city, but the story of the
retconning. We're talking
retconning the game, retconning the story, rather. Like, just the fact that New Vegas exists in a similar design isn't what I think anyone was arguing with Todd Howard. But Todd Howard's made it very clear he hates that that's the story that people latch on to. And so,
well, it honestly is probably one of probably might be the most popular Fallout game.
Now,
here's the thing, it's made by Obsidian too. So
here's the thing: you talk about these timeline issues, and I know from watching the discourse that is a reason that some people are vehemently angry at this show. I mean, they are rabidly angry from some commentary.
Oh, it really bothers me too, because it throws a big wrench in everything. I don't know if I would say it was malicious. I don't think I agree with them. I think I'll say this: Fallout fans are kind of like Tolkien fans. They're very, very passionate about things.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was necessarily malicious, or whether or not it was just a massive oversight, because there are so many references to what happened in Fallout New Vegas going forward, because the show takes place after New Vegas by about 14 years. 15 years? 15 years. I think it's a massive screw up, and they're going to have to fix it. And if they don't fix it, that's going to piss a lot of. It's going to.
Let's get back.
Yeah,
let's get back to. Well, no, it's fine. No, well, you're bringing the lore, so people understand where it comes from, and that's what I want to talk about as we get into this more. The show does a lot of things right, and which is why we're all surprised.
Yes,
and it's just a simple thing. We're surprised. It was normal, and the criticisms I have are normal criticisms: acting, pacing, writing, inconsistencies. And I was talking about this with the guys before we got started. There's, to me, a massive inconsistency, and to me, it's lazy writing in episode 2 and then in episode 8. In episode 2, if you guys know, the battle in Philly between Maximus and the Ghoul. The Ghoul is fully armed. He has the advantage. Maximus is a goon in his powered armor. He barely knows how to use it. And it's a weird fight. It's a weird fight.
He's like, you drive that thing like a shopping cart or something like that.
And he beats him. But yet now in the final battle in episode 8, where the Brotherhood of Steel is attacking the remains of the NCR, and Moldiver is launching attack, the Ghoul infiltrates the battle easily, and he shows up as 4 Brotherhood powered armors and a bunch of squires are about to assault the control room where the cold fusion is being reacted. He makes a joke. Now, this is, again, winding into some of the backlore stuff where he talks about in the backstory. Coop says, yeah, I was in those powered armors. They had defects, and it killed a lot of people, died. And now here he says, gee, when I was in those armors, they had a lot of defects. Let's see if they fixed it. A little part right under the chest plate. And he proceeds to ace all 4 powered armors in seconds, taking advantage of this defect.
Which he already knew about.
Which he would know about.
Which had been prominent in the very first power armor that ever existed, the T-45.
And he mentions that in the backstory. And
yes.
so so to me, when he all out fights Maximus in episode 2 in Philly, that's a straight up fight. And he's not trying to save Maximus. The Ghoul hates everybody. He doesn't know who it is. Yeah. And with the exception of now at the end of the show, his interest in Lucy because of her connection to everything that's going on, he equally hates everybody in the Wasteland. Why didn't he ace Maximus using the defect in episode 2 when he had all his weapons? And
it's plot armor.
It's plot armor. So
it is 100%. Yep.
So to me, I will criticize the show for lazy writing like that, just so we could have a cool moment in episode 8 and have him take out four powered armors in seconds, and then learn that. And then when he confronts Hank in the powered armor, now he doesn't kill Hank in the powered armor on purpose because he wants to use him as bait to find his family. We learn at the end he's clearly hunting his wife. He's hunting his wife for 200 years because, as we know from the backstory, she is all in evil. She was not a saving grace, and she likely was cryo-frozen along with the rest of the head honchos of Vault-Tec.
Also, shout out, they made a black lady evil. Ooh.
Yeah, well, listen, the show did things right. There is a lot of violence is visited upon women by men in this. And they don't shy away from it. Listen, the gratuitous violence in this show, good, it's fine.
Spot on to the games, by the way. Yeah. Exploding heads, exploding limbs, legs.
Boom, bang. Yeah, they didn't shy away from it. And these are like, to me, this is regular criticism I'm having. I'm not making fun of the show. I'm just saying tighter narrative in some places. Don't be inconsistent. As I said before, and we can now talk about this. To me, Maximus is the weakest part of the show because the actor is not very good. He has one emote. I look like I'm about to cry and piss my pants. That's all he can do.
And how old is he? He's the most 50-year-old looking 30-year-old I've ever seen.
Oh, is he really 50?
No, he's 33. But he looks like he's 50.
Shit.
Now, Jed is up to one point. So Ryan, this is to you. I feel like Maximus, there could have been a better story about his development. Instead of every time he tries to do something right, it's turned comedic and over the top. Like when he tries to save Lucy in Vault 4. Finally, it's like, oh, finally, you got up off your ass to do something. Instead of saying, can we have sex now? Instead of doing that, let's do a thing. But then it turns into comedy because he didn't have to do it. And there's no repercussions.
Okay, so I'm going to allow. Okay, so Fallout is weird. It's a very weird franchise. It is very serious, very grotesque, very shocking in a lot of ways, but also at the same time
funny.
It's very over the top campy. Because so the split of when the bombs dropped in 2077, it's kind of like the 1950s on steroids. Everything is it's like time was frozen in the 1950s, and it just progressed past what our normal culture is. They did, like going to the TVs looked like the 1950s. They're called Radiation Kings, stuff like that. So it's super campy and over the top in many ways, but at the same time, it has some of the most grotesque, awful things. Is when we went through Vault 32 and saw what the reality of the.
When they discovered what was going on, they took themselves out. We're not going to.
And it's just, and that's the state of the majority of the vaults that if you walk into in any of the games,
yes,
they're in such a state of just disgusting decay of horrendous actions that these people did to each other that you're just like, it almost blows your mind. So yeah, it's I definitely get that. He was a little. I understood the comedic relief again, but he needed. He finally got off his ass and did something, and then he didn't need to do it. And I was like,
and then it's when he's about to do it, he's going to stop and take one more handful of popcorn.
Yeah,
and it's just everything Maximus does, and I'll give him credit for his character development. At least they had him admit he's a liar. But you know what? That's more a Lucy character growth moment because it shows that, as we were talking about before, Lucy, who has faced all this shit for 2 weeks on the surface, she maintains her positive outlook. I like her catchphrase, "Okie dokie." I like it. It's a great catchphrase. It's fun, and it
works for her.
It could really become a thing if they play it right. And she says, "I don't care that you lied to me. I don't care because I see you for who you are. You still do. Your actions spoke louder than your false words." And it's more of a Lucy moment than Maximus owning up to it. And then during the whole battle with the NCR, Maximus just kind of floats along, doesn't do anything, and then isn't happy about. He shows he's not happy about taking the credit for the victory of the Cold Fusion, but it's not enough. I just feel as though Maximus's character work was lesser than everybody else's character work that was done of who we're supposed to care about. And the actor is he's kind of piss poor. He's not very good.
Yeah.
As opposed to the lady who played Lucy, I don't remember her name. She does a great job.
Ella Purnell.
Ella Purnell, thank you. Ella Purnell. She did a great job.
Also, she's very, very pretty. They let her be pretty. They let her be pretty.
They let her be pretty. Although there was one thing, and I mentioned this before, I'm going to mention it again. It was funny in episode 1 where on wedding night, she just jumps his bones because it's wedding night. We got to procreate, keep humanity going.
Take off the dress, though. Other women are going to have to get married in that. So inconsiderate.
I laughed about it because then I was joking about cousin humping because that proved she was humped by her cousin because that was not first-time sex.
Yeah.
She knew what she was doing.
It was she was doing. But then...
It also leads into real quick kind of the disgustingness of the vault themselves that they're kind of fucked up.
Yeah. But now, Ryan, here's the thing. All of that is Lucy's character. It's fun as that, and I get it, and I'm okay with it. But then in the vault for a moment when she says to Maximus while they're sitting in quarantine, "You want to have sex?" I was like, "No, Lucy, don't do that. Don't do that." And it diminished her character a little bit. That she wanted to have promiscuous sex just to pass the time.
Yeah, it kind of does in a sense, but I would also kind of lean toward again as so a lot of the characters, especially the ones that come out of the vaults, are very, very naive. It's like releasing it's like releasing a child into this ugly world for the first time. Like when they're walking out, they're like, "I'm gonna have a great time," and it's like they don't understand that they're the weirdo compared to everybody else because everybody else has been living like this for 200 years. So no, I do understand that. I didn't necessarily care for that moment.
Especially then they make Maximus worse that he's afraid to jerk off. He thinks it's gross. When, if you remember in episode 1, you see a dude jerking off in the barracks underneath
so they're
the quilt.
familiar with the concept.
Yeah. Well, okay. So the Brotherhood of Steel is well, they suck.
Yeah, they do.
Okay, so the Brotherhood of Steel is more like Elder Maxon's Brotherhood of Steel in Fallout 4. Very, very rigid, very, very, very paramilitaristic, to the point of if you don't do your duty, you will be killed. And that's the way it is. This is a more realistic Brotherhood of Steel than the one we get in Fallout 3, which is Elder Lion's Brotherhood of Steel, which actually had more of a moral compass. It's also why in Fallout 3 we see the Brotherhood of Steel outcasts because they left because Elder Lyons was not following the actual doctrine of the Brotherhood of Steel. So it would actually make sense. It makes a little bit of sense that this was probably actually sexual desire was beaten out of Maximus, so to speak. Because the Brotherhood of Steel is not about that. Your life is the Brotherhood.
I understand that. I can accept that. But it's just it makes for a lame joke about my penis pops like a pimple. It's
it's lame
writing.
Joke.
It's bad writing. It's lazy writing, and it's all for the joke of let's have promiscuous sex, and then him to come around and say to, "Can we have intercourse now? Can we do it? Because I'm eating oysters."
Yeah. So I kind of related it a little bit to queef jokes in Ghostbusters 2016 a little bit.
That's just what I'm. But that's why I'm just talking about my honest criticisms of the writing could have been stronger, the dialogue could have been better at points, and I'm not getting the character work that I can see they do, because they give Lucy great character work. They give the Ghoul, Walton Goggins, fantastic character work, especially those flashback scenes where we're getting the history and those stuff. And all I want is Liz. I'm not engaging with her while we're doing this. All I want is solid character work, and we show they can do it. And you get guys like Walton Goggins, and you get Colin McLaughlin. These are powerful actors who can own scenes, and they just own it when they're there. And it makes the Ghoul compelling, even though he is an absolute shit as a Ghoul to everybody, as opposed to Cooper Howard, who was a patriot, who loved his daughter, who loved his wife until he found out his wife was evil to the core, who was down with destruction of the world so that they can play social monopoly. It's something that we can see they can do, but then drop the ball with Maximus. And that's what bugs me.
Also on top of that too, so to actually add to the fact, one of the reasons that I think Cooper is such a compelling character, so a lot of people don't know, the ghouls are the result of radiation poisoning, to the fact that they become these mutated husks of themselves. They come kind of a little bit zombified in a sense. Now there's differences though. There are what are called feral ghouls, which we saw his friend turning into it, and also in Super Duper Mart, the feral ghouls, they're mindless, they're savage, their only thing is to kill, everything. They'll go after a human just as easily as they would go after a death claw. Now, if you're not familiar with Fallout, it's kind of disappointed. I wanted to see a death claw, but I guarantee.
Didn't we see a skull of a death claw at the end there?
You don't. Yes,
we saw the claw of a death claw at the beginning of episode 2 in the dude's lab when we were seeing dog meat being raised. There was a sheet over a body and a claw hanging out that looked like a death claw's claw.
If so, I definitely missed that. So now,
but that's what I was hoping the bear was in episode 2. It's like, oh, please be.
Yeah, I was a little disappointed that it was just a mutant bear.
It's called a Yao Guai. Is what they are. They're giant mutated grizzly bears. So the Yao Guai was it was awesome to see. My problem is that he shot it in the head once and it died. It's so unrealistic.
It was so dumb.
It's so unrealistic.
That whole bit was dumb, especially with Titus or whatever.
Yeah,
and then what's his name? Is under
Michael Rappaport. Thank you. Yeah.
He's such a dumbass. Like
he is a dumbass, and that's why I'm glad he died, because it kind of encompasses real life personality a little bit, that he sucks. So, but yeah. So anyway, the Yao Guai, I would have been when he shot it once and killed it. And even in the head, because the Yao Guai's skull is modified so much, you would actually have to fire probably 10 rounds in the row at the same point to actually finally have 1 or 2 penetrated skull. That's how mutated these bears are. They're incredibly hard to kill. The only thing probably harder to kill is probably a death claw. And that's where I was kind of leaning it was going to be a death claw, because death claws are famous for making their caves in where radiation barrels are, that the U.S. government, again, in the past, just decided to tuck away in a hole and leave them.
Okie dokie.
And if they do too, and let's shift the conversation to that. The interesting thing about Jonathan Nolan, he has a record of putting out stellar season 1s and a record of putting out shit season 2s and beyond. Because he
either gets progressively worse,
he either walks away from the project himself and turns it over to lesser people, or like bends the knee to his wife or something and lets her by it. And so wherever they decide to go with this, I mean, I will probably. Well, let's about this though. So this was a surprise success. We've talked about this because it's a normal show, and the discourse has been weird. in terms of, I mean, Jed, you mentioned earlier, people are really unhappy if you just don't love it completely.
It's all or nothing for them. Like, if
Yeah.
it's not the worst thing in the world, it's the best thing in the world. And I just don't understand that perspective, because even with going back to some of the old stuff, I'm not just going to say, like on Saturday Night Drive-In, I'm not just going to say, oh, it's old, I'm giving it a 10. Like, there still needs to be nuance in every discussion that we have, whether or not it be an old or a new thing. And this show just, it isn't worthy of a 9 or a 10. I'm sorry. It's
I gave it a
just
7.
not true.
I gave it a 7.
And just to slot in my thoughts briefly, I've only watched the first 2 episodes, so this is very much an early type review, and I don't think I'm going to go any further in it because I'm just overall bored with it. Whoever's in charge of the music, the set design, the costuming, they did a phenomenal job. Those people need promotions. Those people did a great job with Fallout. Whoever did the writing, it's mediocre at the very, very best.
Very average.
As Adam knows, and anyone who watches Drive-In knows, one of my big things is coincidences. There's a lot of coincidences in the first 2 episodes, and a lot of things that are just the plot just progresses for the plot's sake. I don't feel like there's any plot momentum that makes a whole lot of sense. And the characters are fine. Lucy and the Ghoul are the 2 people that I like. Everyone else I don't give a flying fuck about. But Lucy's great overall. Definitely enjoy her naivete. It makes sense for her to be so naive, and the evolution that we see with her. But it's just not very well written. I just genuinely think it's okay at best when it comes to the script.
That's my assessment as well. The script, it's average. It's nothing spectacular. I see people saying fantastic, and I'm happy that it was normal. I mean, it's kind of somebody equated it in a recent discussion with me to, it's kind of a One Piece thing where we expected, those of us who were hardcore One Piece fans, we expected an abomination, even though Oda Sensei was going to be involved. And what we got was something that wasn't completely what we wanted, but it was okay. And what we got out of this is an okay show that, as you said, it just goes from one plot to the next. And that's kind of all it does. It moves from one scene to the next, and it moves the plot along here and there. Characters interacting. Sometimes it feels coincidental. Sometimes you can understand this. But it just kind of moves along in a natural, normal way. And I think we should praise it for being normal and not super engineered. But I don't think we should be overpraising it. And that's kind of what I feel like we're getting with this. People are overpraising it because it wasn't a massive disappointment. And Jay, I think you mentioned this earlier, the bar is so low on everything that we watch and have to deal with. I mean, I am now, this week, we get Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon Part 2.
I hope it fails.
Well, I already have I've told you guys what my title card is going to be. I'm not going to spoil it for the fan, for everybody in the audience here. But we got that. We are now then also a couple of short weeks away, 3 weeks away from Doctor Who season 1 with Ncuti Gatwa. Jeremy and I are going to be covering that. We're a month and a half away from the Acolyte.
If y'all want a third, I'll wait in.
You can jump in whenever you want. We're going to be streaming it on Saturday nights.
So bad.
We're going to be streaming it on Saturday nights, so people can come and go if they want. You guys want to come and go?
Yeah. No, I'm in.
I can't bring myself to watch it yet. I need
your audience might bully you into it though.
They might, but I just can't do it anymore.
Yeah.
Every video you put out, I'm gonna be in the chat and I'll be like, "Oh, Jed needs to watch."
Yeah, I mean, Jeremy and I, we've worked this out since they're releasing it on Friday nights, and we can't fit it in for Ballbusters. We're gonna live stream review it on Saturday nights after Drive-In. So that's what we're gonna be doing.
Yeah, I think that's a good call.
Yeah, it's because we want to talk. We don't want to do a legitimate review. We want to just roast the hell out of it, talking about it. That's what we want to do.
Well, season 1's already dead. So
yeah. So then we have Acolyte in June, and that's a lot of likely horrible shit in the next month and a half, and then there'll be what is likely to be a moment of oasis with Hot D2. With Hot D2. And,
I can't wait. I'm so excited.
But here's the thing. The bar is so low, and Hot D2 may be worthy of the praise it's likely going to get because it's earned it with a season 1. But anything that comes out is just, if it's an average show like this, it looks and tastes and smells like ambrosia compared to what Acolyte, the Disney Star Wars, Rings of Power, all the shit. And I think people are so desensitized. Maybe I'm using that wrong. Or maybe they're hypersensitive to shit being so bad. And
go with that.
When something is just okay, it feels like it's the greatest thing in the world because it just did what a regular show from 10 years ago used to do. Just hit the marks of, okay, here's good characters. Here's a plot that's going to move along without any crazy inconsistencies.
Yeah, here's an intriguing world.
It's a world that you can stuff. It's got source material that you can go play around with, that you can go play and enjoy yourself, and with decent acting, halfway decent writing in this case, you get that kind of thing, and suddenly, comparatively, you think it's the most brilliant thing, but it's just this would have been an average show 10 years ago, and it being the normal show that it is, I pose the question now: why did Amazon batch drop this?
It's moronic.
It was massively moronic. I have a massive problem with that. The binge model is fun, right? When you're obsessed with something, you want it all you can get. You're gluttonous. It lends to basically some of the problems with our actual country because people want it. They want it now. It needed to be weekly.
It should have been weekly.
Does Amazon have something else coming out?
No. And here's the question: this show was,
and Alan Richardson just put his foot in his mouth.
We're not talking about that. We're not talking about that.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, but like,
I didn't stop
watching Reacher.
I only watched the first 3 episodes of Reacher. I ain't going back. I don't care. I'm done.
There's a lot of people who are not going back now.
Also because Serena Swan didn't take her top off, so that was the one sex scene probably. So I didn't. I have nothing to look forward to anyway.
No.
But no. So I'm not. I don't care about Reacher. I don't care. I'm even questionable about seeing the Ungentlemanly movie he's in with Cavill.
With Henry Cavill, the League of Ungentlemanly.
I was excited for that.
Warfare.
Now I'm gonna probably wait. It's not gonna get my money because I don't want to support Alan Richardson for being crazy, but that's a different discussion, different thing.
Well, and after Argylle failed, I'm not going to watch it just because Henry Cavill's in it.
Yeah. But what we have here is a situation, this should have been weekly.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a show that, for all intents and purposes, is a decent show.
Well, and it's not a Netflix.
Let me finish point. No, my point. Yet, with a show like Wheel of Time, Waste of Prime, whatever fucking joke I should make of that, that show was horrendous. It was horrible. You want to talk about lore breaking and bad acting, bad characters, and agenda. That had it all in spades, and they rolled that shit out on a weekly basis after a 3-episode premiere. Yet this show, which isn't really agenda-driven, except for that moments in the first episode, and has a regular story that's just going to move along, they couldn't drop that for 8 weeks and give me weekly content? No, that doesn't make sense to me. They had a normal show that would probably do really well on a weekly basis, but they batch drop it. I don't get this. This boggles my mind. I mean, everybody assumed after the whole Echo fiasco that this was Amazon pulling a Disney saying, oh, we just got to get this shit out.
They think it's bad, yeah.
Yeah, so that we can now, and I guarantee they're not going to batch drop Rings of Power Season 2. Which, according to Az, which I heard this morning, they are now done with editing, so there is a chance it could be out by the fall or winter.
Oh, I hope it's
Mortal
Hot
Country.
Same coming up against each other, just like they did last
I don't think
time.
so. I don't think they get it out by the summer at this one. Doesn't sound like they will. If it just finishes editing, I don't know. But I want Mortal Country. But I don't. They're not going to batch drop that. They're going to run that horse shit out 1 week at a time after likely a 2-episode premiere. That's going to hurt my brain.
And it's not like Netflix, where Netflix has a brand built upon the binge model.
Yeah.
They're not contradicting their normal way of doing things that would make their audience upset. This is Amazon, who, like you've said with several examples, is known for doing 2 to 3 episode launch and then weekly. They're going against their normal model, and it's hurting the show. And there's still people out there. The binge model argument is on fire right now on Twitter, and people still just saying good show means good show. And the binge model is irrelevant. And I've never agreed with that because it's so easy to contradict. Do you want 2 weeks of talking about a great show, or do you want 8 weeks about talking about a great show?
Why do you think I rushed my episode 3 to 8 review out this morning? I did the record this morning because in a week we're not going to be talking about Fallout.
Yeah, no one's going to be talking about it. And IGN, I'm actually agreeing with IGN right now, which is crazy because they're coming out on the side of week-to-week model is the better model, and people are trashing them for it. Because they've got numbers from Netflix saying Netflix said, yeah, we see a massive drop off in viewership after a week or two on most of our shows. That's bad for viewership. And for the platforms that use advertising, that's bad for advertising. You generally have low reviews when you do the binge model. You have generally lower interest in. You can't build up to a great conclusion. You can't build up to a bigger audience.
And think about the conversation that could have been had about a guy like me who was so negative going in, week to week, watching me change my tune, watching me having to eat crow. That's much better than me just rushing this out. And in a minute over this past 72 hours, I'm just trying to get my points out. And then I say I'm wrong. And then we're going to move on. And no one's going to care that I was wrong in 2 weeks anymore.
Yeah. See, so me as somebody who's a massive Fallout fan, like Fallout is one of my favorite things. And again, I'm not on I really like the show. But when I say I really like the show, because of the flaws I see, I'm thinking 8 out of 10. I'm not going to say it's a 9 or a 10 or anything like that.
That's fair.
You know, and of course, you know, you said that it's a regular show. You gave it a 7, so I'm like 1 point above you. I'm going to be invested for a season 2, no matter what. But I'm also very invested in the games. I've played all the games, even the controversial Fallout 76. I like Fallout 76 when it launched. Did it have a lot of problems? Yes. As somebody, again, I'll say this until the moon and back. I helped beta test it on the PlayStation 4. It had a lot of problems. That being said, it is a much better game. They have changed so many things. If you've tried it once, I say go try it again. But yes, so I will always be in the camp of I want season 2. Now there is something to be said that they've seen a 200% increase on Steam for people downloading Fallout content, the Fallout video games now, because people are very intrigued.
People want to play it. I mean,
people want to play it.
People we know in our immediate circle are firing it up to play shit right now.
Yeah, exactly. So that is a very, very positive thing. That being said, though, weekly, and I agree with Jay Frazier, everybody here, weekly would have been 10 times better than the binge.
Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed the video, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, check out my gaming channel at Renaissance Nerd Arcade, and follow me on X Twitter under @TheRedNerd. Thanks again for watching. Take it easy.